Good evening. This summer, the Savannah boys and I are studying the life of David on Sunday mornings. And when thinking about David, it's easy to picture him as like some type of superhero or a man amongst men. I mean, the guy was king of a country, won war after war, and killed a giant with a rock. It's so easy to see David as larger than life. But when you boil his life down to his spiritual life, the fact of the matter is, it's no different than ours. David loved and served God, but there were still times where he failed him. And I know that this is true for all of us. David had his struggles, but he always turned back to God. And the reason for this is his heart. David is first mentioned in 1 Samuel 13, where he's described as a man after God's own heart. I don't know about y'all, but I can't think of many other compliments that are as good as, man, look at that guy. He has a heart like God's heart. Tonight, I want us to take a quick look at what things God saw in David's heart to choose him to be king over Israel, and how we can have a heart like David. First, God saw David's spirituality. Growing up, David spent a whole lot of time out in the fields alone watching over the sheep. And it's out in the field where he spent much time in prayer and his thoughts. To have a heart like David, we must spend time with God. Satan is so creative with how he distracts us and gets our heart, off the right path that it should be on. And that means that we have to be creative too. We must really reflect to figure out what works in order to guard our hearts. Second, God saw David's humility. I think the best way to describe David's humility is found in Psalm 89, 19 and 20, where David is described as God's servant. You usually, wouldn't think of a king as being a servant, but David was. The Jews were expecting Christ to be an earthly king, but he wasn't. Christ was a servant. There's a reason Jesus isn't called the son of Moses or the son of Elijah, but he's called the son of David. To have a heart like David, we must be willing to serve. Third, God saw David's integrity. David messed up, as is true for all of us, but his heart was ultimately loyal to God. And when you boil down integrity, basically it's doing the right thing, but at its core, it involves loyalty. We see how broken David is in Psalm 51 after his sin with Bathsheba, and how badly he wants to please God. After we sin, we have got to have that want to be better. To have a heart like David, we must have that want to do what's right in the eyes of God. Having that guilt is such an important and beautiful thing to have. My hope is that all of us truly spend some time looking at our own hearts. Because if you guard your heart and make sure your heart is right, the impact not only on your own lives, but on the lives of others can be eternity changing. As I've been working on, this lesson, just spending time, studying David, for a Bible class on Sunday mornings, the phrase that keeps, going through my head is that the heart is the key to everything. The heart is the key to everything. I encourage you all to really dwell on what that truly means. And to close, I want to leave y'all with 3 questions that you can spend time, thinking about yourselves, with your family, or maybe just call a friend on the phone to discuss these as well. First question, how important is our heart in regards to our salvation? Second question, what are some effective ways to remind ourselves each day to guard our hearts? Third question, in what ways does modern culture, fight against the inner qualities that God seeks that we talked about today? Spirituality, humility, and integrity. And also, I guess this is more for parents to the second part. How can parents communicate these values to their children? I hope y'all really spend some time thinking about these questions and discussing them. And I just hope that y'all have a blessed evening.